I've got Alex Kramer here. Alex has really built a reputation for being genuine, no BS sales leader. I can attest to that. We just talked for about 15 minutes beforehand, and I feel like I've already had a little breakthrough of just some nice zenness for my Friday. But really, like, his passion is like helping sellers break free from those robotic scripts and actually like connect with buyers in a real way and enable sellers to like be their authentic selves, which I think is absolutely awesome. He spent years leading sales teams at DocuSign, Outreach, Microsoft, 3 companies really at the forefront of like automation and sales, right? Now the founder of, correct me if I'm wrong, Alluviance. He's
Illuvians,
helping
yep.
businesses create really like authentic, high-performing sales teams by focusing on the power of real conversations. And so in today's episodes, we're going to dive into how AI can enhance sales rather than replace the human element, and how sellers can really differentiate themselves in a world full of automation. So Alex, welcome to the show, man.
It's good to be here, brother. I'm grateful and honored
I
to
love
be
that.
in your presence.
I'm grateful that you're
To
here.
say the
I'm
least.
honored that you're here to have this time. I feel like this is like the best way to like wrap up a Friday, man. So like, I want to ask you, like, now that you're leading Alluviance, like, how do you coach companies on maintaining that authenticity in their sales and marketing strategies? Because I could guarantee you, it's probably not the top thing when you go, hey, what are your top priorities this year?
Yeah. It's interesting. So I spent about 15 years in tech sales/sales leadership, right? You named a few of those companies that I was a part of. And while I was there, I was always at the top leaderboard, either number one on my team or my team was number one. And, it was interesting because back in like 2016, 2017 timeframe, I was at Microsoft and I was number one on my team for the 3rd year in a row. And, on the outside looking in, people be like, man, you're doing so great. You're crushing your numbers, making more money than I never made before. But on the inside, I was more depressed than I'd ever been before. I was even having suicidal thoughts. I mean, it was really a dark period of my life. And I remember asking myself, I'm like, what the hell? Like, I literally have done what I was told to do, right? Crush your numbers, work your ass off, wear the suit and the tie, work at the big tech company, live in Silicon Valley. Like, what am I missing here? And it was right around that time that I ended up getting a LinkedIn message from a guy saying something along the lines of, hey, do you think you're living your life the way that you should? And hit me right square between the forehead. And I took the call, and he eventually invited me to my very first retreat. And at that retreat, really one of the key things that we dove into was the power of self-connection. And, this depression that I had been feeling for so long, this thing that I hated, I was like, gosh, this stupid thing, can I just get over it? I was struggling through like a breakup that I'd, from 3 years prior. And I was just like, what? Like, I'm so angry at myself. And really at this retreat, really taught me about becoming friends with this part of me, becoming friends with this sadness, this anger, this depression. And lo and behold, I ended up joining that community. I was in it for 5 years, and that really also started my inner work journey. And I, committed at that retreat to meditating for 365 days in a row. Been meditating ever since. I really started doing breath work quite a bit. And I really started my healing journey. And since then, I've attended probably close to 150 retreats. I've had a lot of coaches, teachers, mentors, and obviously now I throw retreats for sales professionals, leaders, and founders who want to work on their skill set and their inner game. But it was in like 2019 timeframe. I was leading a sales team at Outreach, and we were, having that hockey stick growth during that period. And I felt like I was living a double life. I felt like I was this tech sales leader, tech sales guy at work, and on the other side at home, I was this into meditation, into spirituality, getting into my feelings, all this sort of stuff. And I was challenged by one of my coaches. They're like, yo, when are you going to combine these two versions of yourself into one? And I was like, damn, that you kind of punched me in the face with that question there. And so I took the call, and I ended up actually coming to my team that next week. And I said, hey guys, we're going to do something different on this meeting. And breath work has been a really important part of my journey. We're going to start out this meeting with a round of Wim Hof breath work. And if you know of anything about Wim Hof breath work, it's like through the mouth and out through the mouth. You're kind of getting your body into it. It's a very, let's call it a vulnerable thing to be doing in front of your teammates. And, we did it. And I remember there was some pushback. There were some side eyes of like, yo, who the hell is this guy? Why is he making us do this? And we kept on doing it. And it was about the 5th week of doing it. I ended up coming into the team meeting, and I was like, all right, guys, I've had a long day. We got a lot to get through in this team meeting. Like, we don't have time for breath work. Like, let's get into it. And the woman who actually was the most against it said, Alex, this is actually probably when we need it most. let's do it. And I was like, holy cow. Like, and, obviously we did it. And lo and behold, that became a really core part of our team. And we ended up becoming number one team out of like 40 teams at Outreach that year. And they asked me to move to New York, open up our New York office, because I was branded as the culture guy, because I was this guy who was like, hey, I love sales. I love how to figure out how to do great discovery, to give a great demo, prospect, like all that sort of wonderful stuff. And I was like, but there's something more too. It's about how do you tap into that best version of yourself. And eventually they asked me to speak at our conference. I got asked to like go speak to other teams and different stuff like that, because there's this unique balance of like, yes, the tactic and the strategy is important. You need to know how to set a powerful frame. You need to know how to get prospects into a state of commitment, drive a great sales process, all that sort of wonderful stuff. And if there's not this underlying foundation that's built upon mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, right? You feeling a sense of aliveness and a purpose of wanting to actually achieve something and feeling, meaning within yourself. Like, I don't care how good your cold call script is, it's going to fall flat if you're not coming from the right place within it. And so that's really just what I, support organizations with, what I support individuals with. It's like, how do you combine this left brain with the right brain? How do you combine, I don't know if I'd call it the spiritual world, although that's important to me, but I don't necessarily communicate. Like, how do you combine this meaning with the, and let's crush our quota. Let's blow out let's make a shit ton of money this year. I'm down. And how does that become the byproduct because you're doing something that's actually meaningful?
There's so much powerful stuff to unpack, even just from that opening. A couple of things that came to mind to me is you're talking about accepting that other side of yourself, right? And I think it is one of the biggest challenges of just people in general is acceptance over avoidance. We all have a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde in us, right? And I think it's more about accepting that and then being able to recognize when Dr. Jekyll's here or when Mr. Hyde could be shown itself. I think the other one that you really hit on too, and I completely agree, it's something I've always instilled in my teams, is like, I always say, if you are not 100%, you can't give 100%. You can't give 100% to your job. You can't give 100% to your friends, to your spouse, to your children, whatever that might be. It all starts with like making sure that your authentic self is 100%. Right. So, man, I'm really excited to dig into this because the depression one I relate to. I didn't even realize it that I fell into depression. And it was when I started my first company. Thank God for my wife. She's the one who noticed it. Right. Because knowing that you went through the same struggles, it's this crazy feeling where your body, like, you think you need to do something, but your body just won't do it. And like, I was always a person, like, my clear red flag for my wife was, man, before we had kids, it was like 4 a.m. I'm up, 5 a.m. I'm in the gym. Like, I had my routine. And then like all of a sudden I started sleeping again until like 9:30. And she was like, something's not right. Like, and that was when I kind of had to have that kind of acceptance because I didn't want to accept that like something was wrong with me. So, man, I love that. I love that you talked about that, right? It's a very vulnerable place. And I feel like we need to have more of those vulnerable conversations. And so in today's chat, I want to make sure, right? Like, we're going to talk about sales. We're going to talk about AI. But the reason I really wanted to bring you in here is like, because I love that every conversation I hear that you have or that we've had, even over like LinkedIn messages and email, is how do we still like talk about this conversation, but make sure we're also bringing that authenticity, because that's where I feel like the conversation really gets raw and gets deep. And so, man, like, let's talk about like AI first, right? It's everywhere. It's not going away, from automated emails to chat bots. But like, the question I keep asking myself is like, are we using it the right way? Or are we making sales reps sound like robots? It's one of my biggest fears because I see a lot of companies coming out. I'm just like, AI is just the next generation of spam cannons, right? And so you talk a lot about the importance of authentic sales conversations. Like, what does authenticity mean to you in the sales context? Help our listeners understand that a little bit.
It's very interesting because I actually just was at a Jeffersonian dinner a couple of weeks ago here in Austin. And for those who know what a Jeffersonian dinner, essentially it's a dinner where a group of people get together and pose a question to the group, and then one person talks at a time. And it's a heated debate. It's a really good dinner. And the question was, all right, with the introduction of AI, whether it's 100 years down the line, 1,000 years down the line, you name it, are we going to end up in either a utopian society or a dystopian society? A utopian society is where it's like, every single person is living to 150 years old. AI is able to recognize whether you have an illness before you even know it. and heal it. There's completely clean energy everywhere. Learning is infinite. In fact, AI like tailors the way that you learn best to who you are, your unique essence. There's global unity and peace. Jobs are automated so we can really focus on creativity, art, spirituality, right? We're in this like multi-planetary system, right? Elon Musk is really taking us there. Or are we in this dystopian society, right? Where there's like environmental catastrophe? You think of what's happening from the data centers and the carbon footprint. Your privacy is dead, right? They're just tracking every single thing about you. There's global inequality because, the people at the very bottom, their jobs are automated. Now they don't have jobs, and the people at the top, they're just getting richer and richer. We're weaponizing AI. It's like people are preferring a digital reality over a real life. It's like, it was a very interesting topic. It's like, which one are we freaking headed to? And really the room, there was probably about 20 people at the center. The room was pretty split. I don't really know. And here was the thing that I personally got to. I think AI is really an unbelievably powerful tool. Obviously, it can automate some of the stuff that, typically we've had to just spend a ton of hours on actually doing. And now that that's, giving us more time, what is that actually allowing us to be doing? It's allowing us to actually be focusing on the stuff that deeply matters to who we are, right? I talked about it, a second ago. It's like, more creativity, more opportunity to work on like, man, what does my heart, my soul want to be bringing to this earth? It allows us to drop deeper into our consciousness, one can say, because I have more time and space on my calendar. Man, let me work on myself, right? We talked about like that Jekyll and Hyde, this Jekyll or is it Jackal or Jekyll? I think it's Jekyll, right? It's like this Jekyll that's in me. Let me build a relationship with him. What's up, dog? Like, why are you so sad all the time? Like, what do you want? How long you been there? What happened? Let me give you a damn hug, it'll like deepen this level of self-love that we have with ourselves. And essentially, if you have more self-love for yourself, what do you have more to give to other people? More love. And so, I do really think that AI is posing a beautiful opportunity for that. Now, that being said, there's some very scary things of like, what about one bad actor gets a hold of the wrong type of AI and then ruins it for everybody? That's a very terrifying thought to have, and fingers crossed that doesn't happen. But, I also do think that at the, you see all these people shooting out all these automated emails. And I don't know if your inbox is probably getting flooded just as much as mine is these days, where it's like, I know that's automated. And, I'm even seeing people post on LinkedIn, this beautiful thing, but I'm like, I know that was made by ChatGPT right there. It's got like the specific, like nobody freaking uses a semicolon on a LinkedIn post. Like, come on, dog. Like we all know that wasn't made by you. And so it's just like, what really is going to come through that's going to be the difference maker from my personal perspective is the transmission. And the transmission is the frequency from which you are actually coming from. I'll give an example, right? If I am speaking to you, and let's say I don't feel confident in what I'm saying, or let's say I feel I'm probably going to start talking a lot faster. I'm going to talk a lot from like my head or my nose or my throat, right? Or, referencing the incredible Chris Voss, I'm going to drop down into a lower tonality, right? I'm going to talk slower, right? I'm going to be more powerful in where I'm actually speaking from, right? It draws you in more. And, whether or not people realize it from whether it be a LinkedIn post or an email or whatever it might be, they will feel it, right? I don't know if you've ever actually had this. I remember when I was at Outreach and we were competing against SalesLoft every single day and a little bit of Mixmax as well. I remember certain times I'd go on the SalesLoft website and I just like feel the transmission of it. I'd be like, these guys suck. Like, oh man, their leadership suck, X, Y, Z. And then there'd be certain times where I'd go on their website and I'd be like, damn, like there's power. And I'm just like feeling the frequency coming from it. Like they're thinking about good things. They're feeling purpose in what they're doing. Again, it's not something that you can like understand mentally. It is something though that you've got 5, 6 of your body that's not in your dome that has a shit ton of wisdom and heart and intelligence to it. And when we actually allow ourselves to access that, I think that will start to come through. And I don't think AI can necessarily, at least as of right now, tap into that frequency. Correct? Yeah. Whether you want to get esoteric, spiritual, coming from the soul.
Yeah, I love that. Like, I agree with you. Like, I say this all the time and continue to say it, is like, I think AI done right is the co-pilot that allows us to actually be pilots, right? That's a powerful statement when you think about it, because talking about the authenticity, I think like conversational intelligence, great tool, because it actually allows me to tap into the most powerful strength in sales that we don't tap into enough, and that's active listening, right? Just think about this, like we have this being recorded, so I don't have to worry about, okay, did he say this? Like, we're going to go back and be able to have all that information. Historically, before AI, we couldn't. We were so focused on writing down the right notes. But then the other side of that too, and my concern is like when you have some of these tools where it's like, oh, well, we can now implement Medic or MedPick, or we can implement this framework. And I'm like, no, don't put the reps in that box. Let them actually have that authentic conversation, and then let AI actually recap that. And then what they need to do with it, they do with it. I think the other point that you hit is around like filling the tank. And one of my biggest fears with AI is that it's going to make us more efficient. It's going to make us more productive. But are we going to take that as an opportunity to actually allow our sales teams to have a better balanced life? Or are we going to continue to squeeze that juice, right?
Question.
That's my fear, is like, my fear is that like quoted OTE right now is like 4 to 5x, and like the new normal is going to be like 8x, 10x. That's my fear. And I love that you tapped in that, because I think being able to actually give our reps more balance and leveraging AI to help them with that, there's a lot that can a lot of good that can come out of that, right? And so,
you said something that I really, really liked. You said active listening. A synonym for active listening is presence. Do you have presence? The greatest gift that you can give to literally anybody is your presence, because there's an opportunity cost to it. When you're fully present with somebody, you literally can't do anything else, right? And how many times are you on a Zoom call with somebody, and I'm guilty of this myself, you're like, I see his eyes flipping across the screen, or I see him putting his hands on the keyboard. Oh, he's listening, but he's not really listening to me, right? And it's like, and it makes you, as the person who's communicating or sharing something, like, at least personally, I fumble over my thoughts, or I'm like, oh, this person's not really feeling my heart, so I'm not going to give him my full heart, or whatever it might be, give her my full heart. And I think that in order for you to be able to give other people full presence, again, it's that mirror thing. Are you giving yourself full presence? Are you actually slowing down? Whether you want to do it through meditation, or going on a walk by yourself, or journaling, or literally anything, accept and be with yourself. Be like, man, how's my body feeling? What's my emotions, right? I'm stressed. Oh, my body's tight. Okay, awesome. Like, let's not judge it. Let's just bring awareness to it. Okay, that's how I feel right now. Noted. Right? And when we actually do that more for ourselves, then in turn, we can do that more for other people. It's like, one of the things that I always talk about with sales professionals, the ability as a great sales professional is to attune to somebody. Attunement. Can you feel, is this person holding back, or this person's posturing, right? Or this person, they're not telling me something, whatever it might be, and actually know when it's time for you to soften, when it's time for you to kind of be like, hey, man, can I punch you respectfully across the face with something right now? Like, and being able to attune, is that person ready for this? And the only way you can truly attune to somebody else is, again, are you attuned to yourself? You can only take somebody as far as you personally have gone yourself.
I love that.
Presence and attunement.
I think it's funny because as you were saying that, I was reflecting just like on a lot of the even recent sales conversations that I get involved on. Like, I feel like I've been able to be so much more present. And there's one question that I tend to see myself asking even more now that I'm present, and it's, tell me more, right? It's the question we always train our sales reps to ask, but we never do. And it's just because we can't be present. We're too busy focusing on everything else. And it's crazy because the deal cycles also are impacted, because you can uncover so much more. You can create alignment so much easier. And you can make that decision of like, can we really solve your problem? Or like, maybe we're not the right solution for you. That's the fun, because I do think that AI can help humanize sales again, plain and simple, right? And so I'm curious real quick, just like for some fun laughter, because you're talking about AI generated LinkedIn posts, emails. What is one of the worst ones that you've received lately that you were just like, oh my, this is totally Chat GPT?
I don't even know, honestly.
Yeah.
I just tune it out. Like, you can just tell within the first 2 sentences, not even, it's like the first 4 freaking words. You're like, robot, not even watch. I literally, I couldn't tell you because
Yeah.
I don't even
It's
read
so
it.
hard. My recent ones are when I get comments and I'm just like, AI just took my post
Yeah.
and
The
regurgitated
comments
it.
are just repeating what you said in your post. You're just like, yes, thank you for
Yeah,
reiterating
like I
what my whole
like
post just
literally like
said.
usually when I go to comment, I can sit there and like I know exactly what I want to respond back. I sit there sometimes and I'm like, I don't know what to respond to with this. Like, do I just give it a thumbs up? Like, what do I do here?
Yeah. I give it the prayer emoji. I see you. I see you, AI
So I
robot.
love that, man. Like, I want to go a little bit deeper, right, around that authenticity and how AI can really help enable that to where real conversations can coexist with AI, right? And so I definitely encourage AI with my sales teams when it comes to communication. But what I mean by that is that communication is human led. I think AI, I'll say that for myself. I am great talking, but when I need to put those words on paper, I am not great at that because I will just idea vomit on a piece of paper. What AI has helped me do is actually like take those thoughts and like put it in an organized fashion to where I can present it well.
Mm-hmm.
But then even like research and stuff like that. Like it's hard to find that perfect balance to where it's like, I want to make sure that you're not losing that personal touch. And so with companies or reps that you're working with, like what are some of the telltale signs that the sales message is way too automated and really lacks that authenticity to where like if I'm a rep listening to this, like what should I look for to like check myself to making sure that my authentic self is still coming out?
You know, there's a few things that I would say to that. The first one is own your voice, right? I mean, I think here's the thing that I see so many sales professionals struggle with is they say, this is what a sales rep is supposed to look, act, and sound like. Let me try to be that. And while there's certain aspects that are important, right? You want to be professional. You want to be an expert at what you sell. At the end of the day, if you're not honoring what makes you unique, you're gonna lose rapport with people. I'll give an example, especially in this, honestly, is what led me to being very depressed when I was at Microsoft. You know, I was 25 years old. I was an enterprise account executive, got promoted very quickly. And my average teammate was about mid 40s, something along those lines. You want to talk about imposter syndrome, like dog, you had it. And I grew my beard out. I wore a suit and a tie every single day. And when I had a few prospects ask me how old I was, I just straight up lied, straight up. Like I'd be like, I'm 32. I'm 32 right now.
Were you
It's
23 at
like,
the time? Just reversed them?
because yeah, right, right. But I was terrified of them looking at me and be like, this is a young chump. He has no idea what he's talking about. Now, here was the problem with that. Yes, there's an aspect of, sure, if I'm 32 years old, that shows I've got experience. I know what I'm talking about. And I was a 25-year-old and I grew up with a phone from when I was in sixth grade. My parents gave me my first cell phone, right? I grew up in this new age of technology. I brought a perspective that if somebody was in their mid 40s or up, they just straight up didn't have, right? And so I didn't honor that. I didn't like really own, like, you know what? I might not have the experience, but I do have a unique perspective that they don't understand. And I actually have a responsibility to be able to share with it, right? I always used to talk about the silver tsunami when I was at Microsoft, right? This time when all the baby boomers are getting ready to retire or are retiring right now. And this new age of millennials and Gen Zers are coming into the workforce, are being the predominant employee. And so if they're just keeping the lens of being a boomer or a Gen Xer, like I'm not honoring potentially their organization leveraging the viewpoint of somebody who is in that position. And what that caused me to do is it caused me to wear a mask, right? And that mask, that thing is heavy, right? And that's what causes the burnout. That's what causes the stress, the anxiety, because you're like, well, I have to be the guy who knows everything and I have to be the trusted, credible source. And underneath it, I'm like, man, I'm just a fucking dude who's here and has a cool perspective on things. And like, I should just straight up say that. And so that's really like one of the key things whether you're shooting a message, it's like own your voice. Don't have yourself try to fit into that jersey. Make sure the jersey fits onto you as the sales professional, right? Own you, own your experience, own your problems, own what you don't know. And not only are you going to be a hell of a lot more trustable, you're going to feel a hell of a lot lighter from doing it, right? once I truly started to own that I'm a spiritual dude in addition to a tech sales guy, and I started bringing breath work onto my team, all of a sudden the world was like, damn, that's attractive. And people started giving me more shit, meaning more opportunities, more speaking stuff, like all this stuff. But it took me going to my edge and being vulnerable of like, this is not like everybody else, but
I
this is
love
me.
that.
Right. I'll finish with this is there's something we talk about a lot within our Alluvians community and what we work with corporations. It's stepping into what we call being an essence-led leader. An essence-led leader is the unique and authentic version of you. If you're weird, be freaking weird, right? If you are different, be different, right? We've all been at a bar, a restaurant, a party where somebody walks in and they're fully in their essence and they're owning it and they're wearing the colorful jacket, their hair in a crazy way. And you're like, damn, I don't know who that person is, but like they're attractive. I want to be around them. There's a magnetic pull that they have to it because they're fully owning who they are. There's been studies done that says authenticity is one of the strongest wavelengths that literally come off of somebody. It carries through the most from all other wavelengths. So when you're fully in your essence, when you're fully authentic, it's like that black hole. It's like, oh man, I want to talk to that person. I want to give that person my money. I don't even know what I'm giving them money for, but like they seem like they know what they're talking about here. Right?
I love that, man. Like there's as you were talking, because I feel like I went through the same thing. I mean, I started my first company when I was 23. And it was the hardest thing because I was like, I'm trying to sell my software to, and we sold into sports venues and stadiums. And so I'm coming into these GMs, and I'm just like, they're not going to trust me. They're not going to have any idea. But it was until I realized that like I have a different perspective because this was an industry that has not adopted technology well. And so it was me retraining and re-educating their brain of like, hey, this is how you can think about running operations differently. But even that imposter syndrome, I mean, with LinkedIn, right? That held me back for the longest time because I was like, who am I? I mean, I've been blessed to have amazing success. And I finally hit the point where I was like, well, let me just share my battle wounds. Maybe that'll help the people that are trying to figure it out right now. And so I love that you said that. And the other one was, talking about the jersey is almost like AI, the way I look at it, especially for like up and coming sellers, to your point, where it's like, I don't have the experience, I don't have the knowledge. For me, it's like, let AI be that Iron Man suit for you. It can equip you actually understand the company, the industry, or whatever it is that you feel that gap to where then your authentic self can still shine. And you'll probably outshine the people with experience because guess what? Can't teach an old dog new tricks, right? Or I'm not saying you can't, but a lot of times, like, this is why I actually prefer to hire more junior sellers. You haven't learned the bad habits, right? So like, let me teach you the habits. Let me teach you how to do research the right way. Let me teach you how to do these things. But like, you be you. I hired you because of you. I always say this is like, I can teach you anything. I can't teach you character. Plain and simple. Same thing with motivation. Motivation is intrinsic. I can't motivate you, Alex, right? That's intrinsic. That's your decision to make. But as a revenue leader, my job is to make sure that those who are motivated can be successful and to create the right environment to where those who want to be successful can be successful. And so you really hit on that. And so I'm curious, like if you were to talk to someone today, because we covered a lot about the authentic self and a lot of it was very visual for me of like, if I see you in person. But how does a rep, like what feedback would you give to a rep if they're like, man, like how do I let that authentic self show when I'm sending out emails to prospects? And I know that I'm going into another crowded inbox. What feedback would you give to that person?
You know, I'll be honest with you, this is a question I've been asking myself, right? Especially as I'm doing LinkedIn outbound prospecting, as I have a sales team at Alluvians. They're doing a lot of outbound prospecting. It's like, what's going to, carry through the noise? And you know what we've been finding is I'm going to give a few tactical things. Lowercase subject lines, right? It shows this isn't a professional thing. Spelling errors, purposeful spelling errors in it, and be short and quick, like straight up. Like if I tell ChatGPT, write me an email that's helping me sell my product to this particular type of prospect, you're going to get about a 5-page freaking outbound prospecting email. When I'm like, I read the first 2 sentences and I'm like, and I got my eyes to glaze over. It's like short, punchy. One thing I also do is I try to give a resource too. So sometimes that, what I've done, for example, is I'll shoot out a message, be like, hey, I write about, sales, inner game, and community. I actually wrote an article on the formula to finding your purpose. Are you interested in that? And give me some feedback on it. And I got a lot of yeses. I'm like, cool. What's your email? I'll shoot it over. Cool. Get their email. I'll add that to my email marketing list. And then afterwards, like, oh, by the way, like, after you read the article, like, let me know if you're interested in learning more about our community or what we can do for you. Right. So it's like, I'm trying to give some value first. Other things, and I learned this a lot from Darren McKee on LinkedIn. I call it like the 3-2-1 methodology, where, you like somebody's post on LinkedIn, you comment on it in some type of way, and then you shoot them a LinkedIn connection request, right? If somebody comments on my LinkedIn, they've got my attention, right? They've got my attention way more likely than shooting me an email with something really cool to say. Because that's just like, I try to respond to almost every single comment on my posts. I'll usually click on their profile and go and see who's this person who comments on it if I have time. But it's showing I'm being interested in you first before I'm asking you to be interested in me, right? It's such a, like, I'm trying to give value to you. I'm trying to add to your network and all that sort of stuff. I mean, I don't know how many people I've seen post on LinkedIn about this recently, of like the way that they got to so many followers on LinkedIn is because they comment on other people's posts. And, I'm guilty that I don't do that because I just don't have as much time to be able to allocate it. But it's a practice, right? 30 minutes every single day. I'm going to go through my LinkedIn feed and I'm going to comment on different people's stuff. And people are going to say like, man, this person commented on my thing. The next time I have a post and they see it, they're like, well, I want to kind of return the favor, and it's like, boom, there we go. Now we got an exchange, right? It's just like, add value to the word before you want
Beauty
value
of
to be given to you
reciprocity,
back.
my man. Man, it's funny you hit that, because
Exactly.
I'm so big on that. The first touch I always tell my reps, if I was to build a sequence today from scratch for them, is first one is either comment or connection request. Plain and simple, right? Before you send them an email, before you try to talk to them, is like, let's just connect with them. Then let's engage with them a little bit. That first email is a value email. Just give them some value. Don't ask for anything in return. I think it's one of the biggest, and what you're hitting on is really one of the biggest transitions we're seeing in the landscape is it's becoming a buyer-centric landscape. And so we need to align ourselves with where's the buyer at in their journey. Is it the awareness, the education? Are they actually trying to make a selection? Too often we're like, oh, let's make a selection before I actually even understand, where are you at from an awareness perspective? Where are you at from like, how can I help educate you? I agree with that completely, because if I give you value and you look at me as a thought leader in that domain that I'm supposed to be a thought leader in, even though maybe today is not the day, that's not a no, but at least like I have your attention in the future for when this does become a problem for you or something that you're trying to solve for. So I love that you said that, man. I want to get tactical on this a little bit, right? Because we've talked a lot about how AI can help, but then also making sure that the jersey fits the person. And so do you have any tips or tricks or like processes that you use AI to like really enhance rather than replace that authentic selling?
Yeah. One thing that I've done is, I create a little chat bot or whatever you want to call it in ChatGPT, and it's called the Alex Crummer writing style. And I've had my VAs upload all my old LinkedIn posts into that. So it really learned, what do I care about? What's my writing style, right? It's uploaded a lot of stuff from blogs that I've written. It's uploaded a whole bunch of my episodes from the Rising Leader podcast that I have, like all this different stuff. So it's like, here's how I talk. Here's what I care about. Here's what I think about. Here's me. And then what I often do when it's time for me to, write an email, write a LinkedIn post, whatever it might be, just like you, I'm a communicator verbally. That's where I really excel personally. That's just where I enjoy it the most. And so, I take out my Chat GPT and I'll voice memo like, hey, I'm trying to, write this thing about X, Y, and Z. Here's how I want it to really come across. I want it to be authentic, but I want it to be, me feel empowered within it. And I want it to be a little bit direct. I want it to be formatted in a specific type of way. I want this to be the hook or something like that. Like, craft me 4 different types of things for that. And the key thing is I don't copy and paste that. right? I will use that, right? I verbalize that. So it's taking everything I verbalize. And then from there, I will take that and I will craft that accordingly, because still when ChatGPT creates it, again, that's still from the ChatGPT consciousness. Even though it's my writing style, it's still not from my consciousness. So I really need to make sure, is my transmission actually coming through this? Because it's your transmission that matters most. Again, whether people realize it, they will feel it. And yeah, that's just how I really started to create a lot more content or even think about things. Like I'm right now in the middle of a new business deal of like working with a particular partner. And I was like, hey, here's everything where I'm at this particular stage of my company. You know, here's all my financials, XYZ. Here, what should I be thinking about? Sometimes I even ask it, it's like, hey, if you're going to help me think about this, what are questions you can ask me that will then help you be more informed to be able to answer this? So it's just like, you know, really, and you've said this very well, it's like, it's that co-pilot so I can be the pilot. What should I be thinking about so I can make the freaking decision?
I love that. It goes back to what we talked about in the beginning, where I was human driven, AI formatted, human edited, or human finalization, right? I'm the same exact way, man. Like my productivity is like tenfold. And even in things that like building playbooks or trying to actually think through a strategy if we're going to change a go-to-market motion, I'm the same way. Like there's times in the car, my wife's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm talking to ChatGPT, because we have these just like random thoughts. And I'm like, ooh, let me put this out there, refine it. I'll come back to it later and actually like work on it. Curious. It is.
It's kind of scary. There's a part of me, even as I communicate with you about that, I feel insecure, because there's so much power in being able to put your thoughts onto a piece of paper and you are the one who wrote it. Versus now I'm like, I don't need to write. Hypothetically, I could just voice memo and I could get it to write for me. And, you know, I almost feel like if I even think about like the anatomy of a brain, we're developing our brains to be more prompt oriented versus analyze, alchemize, think about this sort of thing. Like prompt, I feel like in my head, it's like, it's at the front of the brain versus like deep analysis wisdom is like at the back lower part of my brain, even though it's probably flipped of like the reptilian brain versus the prefrontal cortex. But it's like, yeah, it's like, oh, that's scary. If I'm just like, what's the answer? Tell me this. Here's what I'm thinking. Format. It's like, I'm never actually having to go into my cave with a journal and a pen and a candle and really say, what am I thinking about here? Because I got a quick fix of what the answer is. Now, there's efficiency that happens from that. Beautiful. I can bust out 10 pieces of content in 2 minutes. Hell yeah. And what's the long-term impact of that when I'm actually faced with a challenge that I don't have, you know, hopefully, you know, I'm stranded on an island. I'm like, I can't think about anything because I'm so used to just like leveraging ChatGPT.
Man, I agree with that. So I live, are you familiar with Remarkable? Like digital notepad? Yeah. I live on my Remarkable. Like that is where my ideas get jotted. And to your point, I agree with that completely. It's not a silver bullet, right? Like, let me make that clear. AI will never be the silver bullet to like give you the answer. Where I do think it helps is, to your point, is like, I have maybe by the end of this day, I have like a piece of paper or digital notepad that has 20 different like bullet points around this thing that I'm thinking about. Go organize it for me. Help me organize this chaos that's in here, because that's the beauty. It allows me to live in that chaos. That's where the best ideas come from. And then it can get formatted. And maybe there's some things that it might spit out where I'm like, ooh, I didn't think about that. Right. Let me take this now deeper and like go a little bit deeper than I did. I think it's all about like that relationship. And I say relationship because AI is getting smarter. Right. And so it's like, how do you create a relationship between the both of you, which is weird to say, but that is kind of like where we're heading into. Right.
Yeah. You do need to create a relationship with it. It's like, if you are being mean to the ChatGPT, like, I'm not saying it's going to come back and get you one day, but like, yo, treat it right. Like, you know, there is some sort of essence to it that what you put into it, you will get back. And eventually AI is going to reach the point of singularity where it can actually start to think as, you know, as much as humans can, and then it can actually start to learn from itself. And we're going to be like, man, we're really growing fast. And all of a sudden it's going to be like, boom, now we like figured out how to time travel because it was able to think about this stuff. Like I was talking to a buddy of mine who works at Google on the AI part of Google. And he's like, Literally, our quantum computing can create virtual machines, and we aren't sure where these virtual machines live. It may or may not live in alternate realities. And he's like a PhD quantum computing doctorate. Like, and he's like, we don't know where these virtual machines live. It's like,
Good night.
okay.
Yeah.
I don't know how to take that.
It was good talking to you. You have sweet dreams now.
So treat your ChatGPT with
Man, I
kindness.
got one final question because this has been such an insightful conversation. I'm going to switch you on your sales leader hat for a second. If you had a rep today that was trying to figure out how to make that jersey fit me, what are some of the areas where you would drive them to be like, hey, help AI do X, Y, and Z for you? So that way you can focus on building your authentic self.
Yeah, that's a beautiful question. You know, the first thing that I would say to that person is, have you started to create space for yourself? First up, before we go to the AI thing, it's like, have you actually really started to connect with yourself, connect with your anger, connect with the sadness, connect with the imposter, all that sort of stuff, and just freaking feel it, feel your emotions. Like, you know, I have a teacher, and he says your emotions are the gateway to your vision. But so often we don't want to feel our emotions because it's terrifying to feel what we're going to find in there. So you have to feel that. And also, you can leverage AI to say, hey, I'm trying to feel my emotions. How do I do that? Teach me how to do that. You know what I mean? So it's just like allowing yourself to do that. The other thing I would say, I don't know if this is directly related to AI. You know, before every single meeting, one of the things I always say to a rep, it was always like our routine. It's like, cool, what are the outcomes you want to get from this meeting? What are the questions that we need answered on this call to help to move the deal further along in the sales process? And number 3, how do you want people to feel leaving this meeting? How do you want people to feel? Right. And it was just like our thing. And, you know, I'm assuming there's something with AI that can support you and maybe analyzing what those questions are. But, you know, again, AI is a tool. Don't forget that it is your heart and your soul that matters the most.
And it's so true, man. I might butcher this quote, but it's one that I love, which is almost ironic me saying that, because it's watch your thoughts, for your thoughts become your words. Watch your words because your words become your actions. Watch your actions because your actions become your habits. Watch your habits because your habits become your character, right? And so I think I actually hit that nail on. Yep. I think I'm spot on.
I mean, I felt the transmission in that one, brother.
Man, dude, this has been an amazing, amazing conversation. I want to leave our listeners with like some actionable takeaways. And so what's one piece of advice that you would give to a rep out there? And what's one piece of advice that you would give to a sales leader out there?
Yeah. If I was speaking to a rep, here's what I'd say. Step outside your comfort zone. Do things that are edgy. Do things that are scary, right? Your uncomfortable zone is where you grow. I do a cold plunge very often. Sitting in 40 degrees of water for 3 minutes, it is not comfortable. But on the other end of it, I feel fucking phenomenal. I feel empowered. I feel strong. And I'm like, I do hard things. Now, when another hard thing comes along, I'm like, guess what? I've done cold plunges. I'm ready for this. So if you're a sales rep, do ask the question that you're like, that sounds like a terrifying question. Go for the job that seems just outside your reach. Ask the girl on for the date who's probably outside your league. If you fail, beautiful, right? That's actually like where you're supposed to be. If you're a sales leader, here's what I would say. Have a vision, right? Have clarity on the direction that you actually want to be going. Because if you yourself don't have clarity around the vision and the direction, you can guarantee your reps will not have clarity on the direction that they are going themselves, nor would they want to follow you. As leaders, we need to feel an aliveness around, I want to get there. That's the mountaintop. And if we feel that aliveness, guess what everybody else is going to feel?
Man, I love that. I think like, if you don't mind, I want to add on to that is like, especially for leaders, is to like find your authenticity. I've seen this happen over and over time again, where it's like, there's this authenticity that you find in these reps who like, they're just killing it, right? And then they become managers and it's like, wait, where was that energy that like was there when you were, you know, an IC? And that's something that I really coach into my managers or leaders, because I'm like, people follow you first before they follow the process.
Yeah.
And if they're not going to follow you, it doesn't matter how great of a process we have in this organization. They're not going to follow. right? And so I think that's a critical one too, is like that authenticity doesn't die. That authenticity actually evolves as you evolve as a person as well, right? So, man, this has been awesome. Really enjoyed this conversation. Huge thank you to you for your insights, for your time, for the energy you brought to this, man. Absolutely loved it. And so if you enjoy this episode, don't forget, subscribe, leave a review, share this with your network. I highly, highly encourage everybody to follow Alex Kremer on LinkedIn. Man, when's the next event, right? You just got back from Costa Rica. When's the next event?
Yeah, man. Our next event is in May. And then the one following that is in June. And then the one following that's in August. We throw a retreat every 2 months, and we're bringing together the best sales professionals, sales leaders, and founders that we can to work on their craft and to work in the
May's in Austin, right?
So
I think
May is in Austin. Yeah.
All right. Until next time, keep
brother.
smiling, stay authentic, and use AI wisely. All right, brother. Thanks a lot for your time, man.
Yeah. Much love, brother. Appreciate it.
Welcome to Mixology. In this episode, I went deep with Alex Kremer about authenticity versus automation and how to use AI without losing your voice. AI is transforming sales and content creation, making it easier than ever to generate messaging at scale. But with automation comes risk. How do sellers and brands maintain authenticity when AI is now doing so much of the work? Today, we're joined by Alex Kremer, a sales leader and content strategist with experience at DocuSign, Outreach, and Microsoft. Now, as the founder of Illuviance, he's on a mission to help companies build sales teams that lead with authenticity, connection, and real human conversations. In this episode, we're going to explore how AI is changing sales communication and what's getting lost, why sales teams struggle with sounding robotic and how to fix it, and ultimately the best way to use AI without losing human connection. This episode is perfect for sales professionals, leaders, and marketers who want to embrace AI without sacrificing real, meaningful conversations. If you're ready to dive in, let's go.